Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
Happy First Contact Day. This should be a day for celebrating Star Trek's bright, optimistic vision of the future. The future built from the ashes of war, where humanity finally gets its act together. But as we celebrate the franchise's 60th anniversary, is there much of a future left for Star Trek itself? With the news that Starfleet Academy is done after a second season, a fan base that seems to be at times more divided than ever, and a completely empty production slate, you have to ask yourself the question, is Star Trek being canceled? For the first time in almost a decade, there's no new Star Trek shows in active production. The warp core is sputtering, and we need to talk about why. Welcome to Cine Nerd Presents Blur Trek. I'm your host, Will, and this is Last Week in Star Trek for April the 5th, 2026. Some 13,514 days before first contact on the Star Trek timeline. Now, on this paper, the 60th anniversary looks like a victory lap. Paramount has a year-long celebration plan for the franchise. But behind the marketing glitz, the franchise feels like less of a celebration and more like it's being decommissioned. The red flags there, to me, and the biggest ones, is the production pipeline. It's not just empty, it's a void. Starfleet Academy, the very show that was supposed to carry the torch for a new generation, got canceled before the second season even had a chance to air. This dropped shortly after the first season ended and as the second season wrapped up production. The news was delivered to the cast and crew on a Zoom call. According to Robert Picardo, who came back to play the Doctor, shared this on the Decon podcast with Star Trek Enterprise alum Connor Trenier and Dominic Keating. And what he shared with everyone on the podcast is that the showrunner, Alex Kurtzman, and the producers told the cast that the decision had nothing to do with the quality of the show, but, quote, that not enough people had found this. So this isn't an isolated incident. Star Trek Strange New Worlds, the undisputed fan favorite of the modern era, is also ending with a shortened 6-episode 5th season. And once that show wraps in 2027 and Starfleet Academy airs its contractually obligated second season, there is nothing on the books as of this recording. So for a franchise that has long had, not so long ago, 5 shows running at the same time, now we're going to be left with nothing, and the silence is deafening. We're staring down a barrel of a new television drought, the first of since we had that long winter between Enterprise and Discovery. We as fans are celebrating 60 years of Star Trek. A lot of us fans are feeling if we should be planning a funeral instead of celebrating. So you can't talk about the state of the Star Trek franchise without addressing the war raging inside the fandom right now. The cancellation of Starfleet Academy was truly a flashpoint, with thousands of fans signing a petition to save the show, and yet there's another petition that was out there that was calling for a second season to be completely scrapped. Now, the online discourse has become a total minefield. One side screams that the show is too woke, while the other side fires back that critics just don't get Star Trek. It's a bitter fight that's tearing the community in some places apart, but it's vital to make a distinction that the creators themselves have made to us about this schism. And this is one that there can be legitimate criticism, but there is also outright toxicity that is out. Let's be honest. There has been some legitimate creative concerns from the jump for modern Trek. Fans have pointed out massive redesigns that shatter established visual continuity and tonal shifts that make the franchise feel like grim, dark science fiction than Trek's classical aspirational humanism. There's a sense that the universe doesn't follow its own rules anymore, with serialized plots often pushing aside the ensemble dynamic that made the old shows feel so special. Now, these are fair points from people who genuinely care about the story's integrity, but there is that toxic behavior that is out there that is a whole different animal. We're talking about the homophobic, the racist, and misogynist attacks thrown at the cast and crew. It's the review bombing campaigns and the targeted harassment of people for just doing their jobs. And as Robert Picardo noted, Star Trek's core values have always been about social justice and fighting prejudice. Long before woke became a weaponized insult, this is a franchise that gave us the first interracial kiss on television and a Russian navigator in the 1960s. a bald French captain, and a Klingon on the bridge in the 1980s. A black male and white female led shows in the 90s with DS9 and Voyager. Asian and a black female led shows with Star Trek Discovery. 2 openly gay characters on Star Trek Discovery in the 20-teens, and many others. To attacking a show for its diversity isn't a creative critique. It's a rejection of what Star Trek has always been. So, if the problem isn't just wokeness, what is it? A compelling argument is that Star Trek has simply become too niche. For decades, Star Trek wasn't necessarily a niche show. It was thoughtful, mainstream sci-fi that appealed to a huge audience. You know that from all the references to Star Trek made in the popular lexicon. For example, Beam Me Up Scotty, which we all know was actually never said in the original series, became part of the popular vernacular. And when people said it, people know what it meant. For many, it was appointment television, especially in the age of syndication. And that's how the original series gained popularity, as well as how the next generation was able to thrive, free from the shackles of network interference. This new era, however, has often felt like its audience is shrinking, and the move towards heavily serialized, dark story arcs seemed to have been aimed at a specific demographic. And whether it was intentional or not, it made the tent smaller. This has naturally split the audience. And instead of one massive fan base, we've got pockets of fans who tune in only for 1 or 2 of the new shows, or hold on to the past without giving the new shows in the modern era a fair chance. While Strange New Worlds broke through by bringing back the episodic format, other shows couldn't quite get a foothold. And the ratings for Starfleet Academy tell that tale. The show failed to consistently crack the Nielsen's major streaming charts, which meant it just wasn't reaching a wider audience. It's a vicious cycle. Low ratings means quick cancellations. Announcing a show is canceled before the next season even airs, tells potential viewers don't even bother. A franchise this massive needs to bring in new generations, not just to cater to its existing base. And when a tent shrinks, the future shrinks with it. Star Trek's staying power has been its ability to be a big tent show. Something people from all walks of life could watch and talk about together. By aiming smaller, it may have signaled its own death warrant, and that's the heart of it, isn't it? Has Star Trek's focus gotten too narrow, or is it just changing in a way that some longtime fans don't like? I really want to know what you think. Does modern Star Trek speak to you, or does it feel like it's leaving you behind? Let me know in the comments below, but please keep it respectful. We can disagree without being disagreeable. Now, amid all the fighting, there is this popular narrative that toxic fans want to go back to the 90s. Now, I'm a 90s fan. I'm definitely not a toxic one. And that all they want is another TNG show and a retreat to the past. But evidence doesn't really back that up. A huge chunk of the fan base is actually asking for the opposite, for Star Trek to finally move forward. The passion for fan-proposed shows like Star Trek Legacy, set in the 25th century, or a series about the Federation's early days after Enterprise, shows an appetite for new stories built on the foundation we already have. These ideas are popular because they don't demand redesigning classic ships or even retconning history. They respect the universe instead of rewriting it. They offer a path to new characters, new ideas, and new challenges, all while honoring 60 years of storytelling. Fans aren't begging for another nostalgia trip. I know I'm not, but I am asking what I am and what many of us are asking for is a future that builds on the past. They want stories that feel like they belong in the same cohesive universe we grew up in, a universe with consistent rules and shared history. Moving forward in the timeline gives creators all the freedom in the world they need without alienating the very people who've kept this franchise alive for decades, but also opens the door for new fans as well. It's a logical path forward, respecting both legacy and innovation. Of course, we've all been here before. It's worth remembering that almost every new version of Star Trek has been met with some form of backlash. Fans said that TNG wasn't real Trek because the crew was too diplomatic. The S9 was too dark. Voyager, Enterprise, Discovery, and the others, every single one of them was accused of losing the way and losing the plot. But this time, it feels different. Production void is real, and it's happening during a massive corporate shakeup, with Skydance completing its acquisition of Paramount. Star Trek is now under new management. The new leadership has said that Trek is a priority, and they have plans to finally merge the film and TV divisions, which have been separate for a very long time. This could be a good thing. New leaders might finally bring a unified vision to the franchise, but it also brings a lot of uncertainty. Will the new team, led by CEO David Ellison, see the value in Gene Roddenberry's original mission? Will they back complex, allegorical stories about humanity's future, or will they chase blockbuster profits or shift the franchise in a different philosophical direction? With rumors that Alex Kurtz's contract, who was the showrunner for Modern Trek, might not be renewed when it expires this year, the franchise's entire creative leadership is in question. So, is Star Trek canceled? No, not yet. We still have the final seasons of Strange New Worlds and Starfleet Academy to watch. A total of 26 episodes left in the bank, but the franchise is in a definite crossroads, navigating a perfect storm of fan division, creative overhaul, potentially, and corporate restructuring. To thrive for another 60 years, a course correction is needed. That means broadening the franchise's appeal without ditching its core values. It means respecting continuity while boldly going into different parts of the timeline. And most importantly, it means both the creators and the community has to be able to give valid criticism without resorting to destructive hate. The future of Star Trek is unwritten. As we look to the next 60 years, the question isn't whether it can survive. Star Trek always survives. The question is what it will become. Will it reclaim its broad, hopeful, and unified vision of the future, or will it splinter and fade into a niche corner of the galaxy it once promised we could explore? If you want to keep the conversation going, make sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell for future updates from Cine Nerd Presents Blur Trek and from Cine Nerd Podcast. Thank you so much for watching. Live long and